All right. So now we're live. Okay. So Kristina, I'm so excited to have you here, and I hope you have something to hold in your little hot hand. Yeah, water. Okay. You know, I got a tip actually recently that's really good when you're doing an interview to have a glass of water so that if you accidentally spill all over yourself, it doesn't matter.
I also feel like if somebody asks you a difficult question, you can be like, oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Let me get my water. I'll be right
sorry,
back.
I just spilled something. Let me just wipe and buy more time.
So, okay. So first I want you to sort of introduce yourself to everyone and give us a little bit of your backstory, as much as you're comfortable sharing your journey into Own Your Wonder. And then I'm going to ask you about the pivot. Okay. So tell us.
So I run a business called Own Your Wonder, which is, I mean, to easily put it, it's basically like a dry bar for makeup. So you just come in. Well, I should use it in the past because we've been closed since March. So you used to just come and walk in, and this is how I actually know Natalia. I actually adopted her as a friend when she was a client, which is what I tend to do. If I like somebody, I'm like, hey, we're going to be friends. Forget being this is what happened to Jen as well. So it's basically you walk in for a makeup service, 30 minutes or an hour, and you get ready for whatever work event or social event you have. Before starting that business, I was a lawyer for about 15 years. Well, in between, I was a consultant. I was a banker at some point. Really boring corporate jobs. And I also moved around a bunch. I spent the last almost like 18 years abroad, and mainly in Europe. 4 of those in Singapore. My husband's from Spain, so we lived in Spain for a bunch of years. And so I've been kind of a nomad, a corporate nomad, I suppose. And I started the business because I actually hate doing makeup. You see Allison like with her beautiful lipstick, and this is like the most that I will do. And I just have always hated makeup, but I always need it, especially the older I get. And I'm always intimidated by kind of this whole beauty idea of beauty, even the word. Like I would never associate that word with myself. And I thought, well, why isn't there a space where somebody like me, who didn't grow up looking, watching other people who look like me be the models or the poster women, have a space where it's not intimidating, and it's also like pragmatic. I kept thinking there must be other women who are as pragmatic as me about makeup. Like I don't use it for selfies. I don't use it for TikTok. I use it to go to work and to feel confident and to feel like, I always say this. I always tell my makeup artist, make me look like I had 8 hours of sleep. I live in the Bahamas and have no kids. None of which are true. So I'm sure there are other women who are like me, and I'm willing to bet that there is a greater population of women who need and desire, my kind of similar kind of, relationship to beauty and makeup as me, because the emphasis in the beauty industry is so much about the young, the beautiful, and the trendy. And
yes.
You talk about makeup or beauty, and people immediately think about TikTok and YouTube, the influencers. So I wanted to create a space that's not that. That's so it's been, I loved every minute of running this business, even though it's been really hard. I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old girl. I have a 6-year-old boy who has special needs and needs 24-hour care. And then I have a 1-year-old crazy baby. So, Jen,
when I met you, you had like just given birth, right?
Yeah, I took 2 days off. That was it. So the coronavirus has been a really great opportunity for me to actually take that maternity leave in my own way. Homeschooling.
Well, we're going to get into that, but one of the things I think that you and I connected on is this idea of the pragmatic approach to beauty. And, you know, this idea that there are people who love doing their makeup and really derive joy from that. And there are people who love getting dressed and creating outfits and spending hours, you know, with that as well. Whereas my approach to getting dressed is also much more pragmatic. I'm all about, you know, creating signature looks and making it easy. And it's a formula for me where you find out, you know, what flatters you and then you apply it, and, you know, you don't have to keep thinking about it. And that's like, I think that's what it's all about. It's cutting down on decision fatigue and making things easier for you in an already very busy life. And, you know, spending your time doing the things that you actually enjoy. And so I'm curious, you know, as Corona has hit us, and you were saying, you know, it's given you a chance to have that sort of maternity leave. And I think for everyone who is, you know, in the space of not having to think about their day-to-day survival, and, you know, for those of us, and I don't want to say lucky, because I think that it's, you know, the situation and the terrain is such that there are people who are able to work from home, and there are people who are not, and who are putting their lives on the line. And I don't, like, yes, it's not like we did anything to make us, you know, deserve that particular situation. It just happened to be the way things happen. And I think we need to realize our privilege, without making people who are essential workers feel like they're unlucky. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, there is that whole homeschooling piece and distance learning. And I also have a child with special needs, so I totally get that stress. And then I'm also curious about the pivot, but I want to talk about the pivot first, because I'm so curious to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be really honest with you. I'll say, you know, I'm all about gratitude, as you say.
Yes.
Who am I to complain about anything? You know, I'm very lucky. I have a husband who works, so I feel very lucky. I have a sister wife at home. I think everybody needs a sister wife. I have a live-in sister wife who basically helps me with the kids. I mean, without her, there's no way I would be here. So,
right. And when you say sister wife, you're saying that in a joking manner. What you mean is you have a nanny. Just so that anyone who is unclear, she's not actually your sister wife.
She's not actually my sister wife, but you know, for those who you know, well, Natalia, you've been to my house. You know, you've met Lita. She's amazing, and so I'll start with that. The pivot, basically, you know, for me, and Jen, I think you and I had this conversation late last year, I think. I had a vision and a plan about where I wanted to be in about 5 years. And there was a huge online play, but I didn't think that I would get there in 5 years, because I was trying to work out the physical piece. And obviously the coronavirus hit, and I just had to accelerate that 5-year plan. And I was so thankful, to be honest with you, because it gave me an excuse to accelerate that component. And
nice.
And the online component is, you know, because it's online, I can reach a broader audience. So that's why I was really excited about it. So what I've been doing is that I immediately started offering virtual lessons, makeup lessons. And we were very lucky that right before coronavirus, literally a week before, we had just signed a contract with the Washington Post to do their journalists' makeup in person. And Washington Post kindly came back and said, "Hey, look, we're closing down our office. We're going to continue to pay you, and you know, until the office, you know, is back on again." So what I had done then was like, okay, all of your journalists are now going to go on Zoom, or I think they do a lot of Skype interviews.
Yeah.
So let me organize virtual lessons for all of your journalists, and that's been really fun because, you know, all the sort of the well-known journalists that I always just read their articles and admire from afar, I've seen their bathrooms. I mean,
that's kind of cool.
It's so great because, for example, I don't know if you guys know this journalist, Michelle Norris. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Norris? She famously interviews, she's Michelle Obama's favorite journalist or interviewer. And I had just seen her on stage. Jen, she was presenting at the Tory Burch Ambition Summit. So I had seen her.
Nice.
Really, really powerful. And then she called the next day and she's like, I need to do a makeup lesson. And you know, it's really interesting because she said that the thing that I just talked about, which is I know how to look kind of gala ready. Like I just usually hire a makeup artist. I know how to look kind of, you know, my usual self at home. I don't know how to do the elevated look. That's just a little bit above my daily look, but not necessarily like I'm going to a gala. And she sat in her bathroom and we did this, my makeup artist did this lesson. And so we've done that for a number of people. And that was a pivot step number one. And then
that's awesome. And I just want to say, like, I don't think that you were lucky to sign Washington Post. I think you probably hustled that pretty hard.
You know what?
I'm guessing.
I would love to take credit, but the person reached out. Oh, wait, you know what? I did hustle for it. Actually, I forgot. I was thinking, I got this, but no, it's true. I hustled for this at some random person's birthday party. And they had it was a lucky break because they had just started doing more media, more, you know, live video interviews because, you know, print just wasn't working. You know, doing the print media wasn't working for Washington Post. And I happened to have met this woman who was covering one of the president's funerals a few years back. So she then remembered my name and reached out to us. So that's how the hustle happened. The other component is, so I've been, you know, when I started this business, I used to always tell my makeup artists, I have about 10 makeup artists. I have two clients. I have the customers who walk through the door and my makeup artists. And I you know, want to make sure that this is something that's sustainable that you can do and where you can apply your trade. Because if you're a makeup artist and you go to a makeup school, what ends up happening is that you go into sales, right?
Yeah.
You go sell products at Sephora or MAC or at any given beauty counters at the Macy's and the Nordstroms. You don't actually get to do makeup unless you're entrepreneurial and you are a freelancer, in which case you're fighting for the same piece of pie, which are weddings and small amount of like special events. So I developed a huge amount of respect for the makeup artists, and I really wanted to create a sustainable kind of career opportunity for the makeup artists. When the coronavirus hit, I just thought, what are these makeup artists going to do? So what I did was I reached out to all of them and said, look, and this is not just for them, but I think that it's a mutual benefit of, I want to create a library of super practical 2 minutes or less tutorials on just focus on single feature. I don't want this personality of like, you've seen, 18-year-old boys who look beautiful and do these tutorials that I don't think any of us on this call would watch, because frankly, it's not that interesting. It's not, and none of these people are thinking about our, pragmatic kind of beauty needs. So this is a great way for them to showcase their artistry to a very different type of people, which is not your typical Instagram live, or, in a much younger and you're frankly competing on the TikTok side again, like going back to that. But it was an opportunity for people like me to just quickly watch something like, I have a Zoom call or I'm meeting somebody actually, and I just need to learn how to do my eyes. And I don't have time more than 2 minutes. So I was able to reach out to a bunch of artists, and in one day I got like 50 tutorials. So
that's
I'm
amazing.
That library where people can really use my new website as a resource to say like, hey, I just need a quick help on something. I'm just going to watch a tutorial, or they can sign up for a lesson, whether it's a 30-minute or an hour lesson. And we've also done like a bunch of parties. People, like women will get together and say, hey, like let's get together for like our happy hour, but let's learn something while we're at it. So we've done some of those. So that's basically my pivot, and that I want to be an online resource that without any product bias and without influencer noise. And this is like so not like the popular thing, because I'm wanting to raise money in the fall, and when I look at, when I talk about this with potential investors, they're like, what? It's not for TikTok. It's not for, you don't have a product. So I know there's a steep road ahead for me, but it's just what I believe in. Like, I'm so passionate about having this particular segment of women as my, my community, but also that beauty idea at being more, it's more empowering. It's for your confidence. It's really how you feel rather than how you look. And funny, because last night I was, I'm updating my website to reflect this. And of course, like I don't have the resources to actually do a photo shoot to create the content. So I'm looking through these free stock images. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to find like an image that I could use for women who were like in their 40s and 50s. I mean, it is virtually impossible. And I don't know
hard.
Why. Also, when photographers photograph women in a certain age range, I guess they tell them not to smile. Like, it's apparently not cool to smile at, like, if you're in your 40s. Like, I'm in
because
my 40s,
it creates wrinkles, Kristina.
And I was like, why are they not smiling? They're supposed to look very serious and like cool.
They have to look serious, because otherwise when you smile, the wrinkles happen. When I did my photo shoot, and this was 10 years ago now, maybe, 7 years ago now, some of the most beautiful photographs were when I wasn't smiling, because and I'm okay with my wrinkles. I mean, even 7 years ago I had some, but that's why.
I think that we should just be okay. I mean, so I actually ended up choosing pictures with, women with wrinkles. And I know my website's going to look like, I know the developer who's working on my website is thinking, but these women don't look like they have makeup on. I'm like, that's the whole point. Like, this is like their look. But I also wanted to pick images of women who are not size 6. And I couldn't find that either. And
it's very hard. It's very hard. I'm always looking, for my blog posts for images of a variety of women who are beautiful in different ways, whether they're older or whether they're, different ethnicities or whether they're different sizes. And the stock photos that are available are very, very skewed towards young, white, blonde, half naked women.
Like,
and
even,
it's
with
frustrating.
the techniques, one thing that I'm building into these tutorials is that I want people to be able to search by their facial features. So like for me, it would be like Asian eyes or dry skin or hyperpigmentation, whatever skin, like, and you would be able to see tutorials that work with those features, which is not what you can do in any tutorials, whether it's a YouTube or like Bobbi Brown or whatever, because we're supposed to erase those features, right? And I am all about kind of owning what you have.
Me too.
The name.
I love your company's title, Own Your Wonder. I just think it's so inspirational and beautiful. And that's what I'm all about, with personal style as well, to really just own what you have, the assets that you have, love your body, whatever, it doesn't matter, because everyone has their own beauty, and you want to encourage your clients to, embrace that. And I love that about your brand. I think it's wonderful. I just want to stay respectful of time, and I want to talk about this homeschooling piece and the juggling piece. So you talked about your nanny, and you also told me before we got on the call that you've got other kids in your home,
right,
and you're homeschooling, and you're keeping the schedule to keep everything clear, because you've just sort of accepted that this is our new normal. And you were talking about, getting your work done in like 10-minute increments. So I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about that and your mindset there, because that's something that, you know, I mean, I have older kids, but I get really upset when they interrupt me. But with littler kids, you can't, because they don't have the impulse control. So talk to us a little bit about that. What does the day-to-day look like for Kristina?
I mean, I will say though, I yell a lot, and I'm always thankful that there's neighbors around me, because they would probably think that I was abusing children. So maybe I am a little bit. I just.
Well, I think it's okay to show your emotions too. I mean, that's all part of being authentic, right? And
there you
like,
go.
I don't know about your mom, but my mom, you know, raised me to put my emotions under the rug, and I don't think that's healthy either. So yeah, I yell at my kids when they, you know, sometimes they need it.
I'm either my kids either get bribed for Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins ice cream, because it's like very close to us and they're next to each other, or they get threatened with a lot of different things. I can't even name a lot of different threats.
I prefer to call that natural consequences, Kristina, and holding accountability.
That's a really good one. So
yeah,
I do homeschool my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old who's really just I'm his like occupational therapist, physical therapist, and speech therapist. So that's we have this whole, I was telling Allison, the county that we live in, which is Fairfax County, is basically making us go through the court system to ask for his educational needs. So it's like the first time that I actually put on my lawyer hat and deal with his IEP stuff, which has kind of been, I mean, I feel like that's a whole different coffee conversation.
It is a whole different coffee, but I think it's one of those things that's really amazing when you think about your resources and your ability to advocate for your child. And like, you know, one of the things I think that COVID has done is really shined a spotlight on the different level of resources that people have, and you know, the gaps in the system. I mean, if you're an essential worker right now and you're going out of your home, you're having to leave your special needs kid at home, you know, or you're having to choose between working and taking care of that child, you don't have a lawyer hat to put on to advocate for your kid. I mean, that's, you know, but at the same time, it's amazing that you're able to do that and read all those documents, because they are so arcane. So good for you, and good for him.
I have 2 kids. My brother, who has a complicated divorce situation in New York. So the kids have been with us. They are 7 and 5. So I homeschooled them, and I have another child whose father is dying of pancreatic cancer. So
my goodness, you're like the foundling home.
I know. I'm like running a little childcare. So I do all of that, and then so I was talking to Allison.
So how do you stay motivated though with all of that juggling, Kristina? Because I know that each one of us has a lot that's going on in our lives, or even if we don't have a lot of immediate needs like children, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot of pain and a lot of heartache, you know, around the situation in the world. How do you keep positive?
I think, well, one, I love kids, so you can tell I love kids.
That's good.
It's like I do love spending time with my kids, so I can't complain. I do love being with my kids and other people's kids apparently. And I love work. I mean, I just love what I do. So it makes it easy to love what you do. But I hear you on sort of like being really down on what's going on in the world. And I don't want to get political, but you know, I've like, you know,
you can get political. It's okay, Kristina.
My business was in Georgetown, and we had to board up our store. And you see, you know, the amount of like police presence and what's happening. I'm also on the board of this Georgetown business board, and which is very much like, you know, let's feed the police during the demonstrations, and let's, you know, and I was the only one who was like, what about the demonstrators? And so like, I don't want to get into politics, but you know, I've had to really.
You have to navigate it right now. I don't think there's any getting away from politics right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so. And then, of course, with my son, you know, like the word that I live with every day is this equity, right? Equity, gender equity. I see my husband's work, and you know, thank God he works, but you know, equity.
Yeah.
and I see economic equity, and and I see abilities equity, because my son is unable to take advantage of anything that's being offered, and I'm being told I have to go to court to ask for it. So so I think that I channel a lot of my frustration and really passion for equity through my son.
Nice.
And so I in a way, it's a great excuse for me to have that outlet to make sure that kids like him, who doesn't speak and who can't represent himself or advocate for himself, can get what they need. But it's not easy. I mean, we talked about this, a bunch whenever we meet. It's you just gotta. I mean, thankfully, I'm so busy that it just doesn't leave a lot of room. But,
there is something to that, though, I think, and just staying busy and not giving yourself the time to kind of, dwell, because there's a lot to dwell about right now. So I just want to open it up and give people time to ask questions as well. I'm going to unmute you all. And I'm sure you have questions for Kristina as well. Let's see. If anyone wants to, I'm going to switch us to gallery view and ask questions of Kristina. We can keep talking, Kristina, but anyone has anything in particular they'd like Kristina to talk about, or me, I'm happy to. Yeah.
I have a quick question. So Kristina, you're wearing makeup right now?
I am wearing makeup right now. And actually, I sat in on a lesson from one of our male artists. And this is like my newfound, not that I don't want to make this into a makeup lesson, but I used to always wear foundation, but he's like, don't worry about the foundation, just wear concealer. And and he introduced me to this like super cheap Japanese brand of concealer that comes in 3 different shades, and you like mix it, and it's been amazing. And then he also had me buy this Maybelline press powder, like $6, and it's it's been amazing. I wear this for my Zoom call, so I have like tinted moisturizer, and that's it.
Well, you look fantastic. So I just want to say that I wrote down your passion for equity because years ago, someone did a Myers-Briggs test analysis and said that one of my major triggers is when things aren't equitable, when things aren't fair. I feel that I have I also have a kid with an IEP, and I am so sorry Fairfax County is doing that to you. I'm very lucky in that what my daughter has gone through, they have always done everything I needed for an IEP. So, but I have heard from others that it can be a real challenge. But just yesterday, I said to, I met this lady, and we were talking, and I was talking about some of my issues with making money right now with my business, because I equate when I made money as a corporate America slave that I was very unhappy. So it's been something eye-opening during COVID that I've realized that I'm afraid to make money because I've equated that now with becoming unhappy again. But anyway,
interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and so this lady that was talking to me yesterday, she was trying to get me past that, and she was like, well, what would you do if you had a bunch of money? What would you do with it? And that's what I realized, that when I spent a lot of time in the hospital with my kiddo, felt so fortunate, and similar to what you guys have, Allison and Kristina, that we're educated and we're able to advocate and we're able to stand up for our kids. And I remember being in the hospital and watching these families that could barely speak English, weren't very educated, and they couldn't advocate. And so, that equity, that what you talked about, I mean, that is the thing we're trying to do, right? And so anyway, I just wanted to commend both of you for setting this up. Thank you. Great conversation so far, but also understanding that that is, something that we all are fighting for, but also that we don't, because of our lives, we don't have time to put on a ridiculous amount of makeup and go and like sit down for, I had an Iranian lady when I was in Iran for a wedding, my cousin's wedding. She did my makeup. It took her an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm like, lady, I love you. This makeup looks phenomenal. But in America, we don't have that luxury. And I told her, I said, if you try and be a makeup artist in America, no one's going to hire you, because an hour and a half, good God, the amount of work that we would do in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Except for weddings, right? I mean, she could do it for weddings. But yeah, I totally hear you on that. And it's interesting, what you were saying, Kristina, about just to take it from the sublime to the ridiculous about tinted moisturizer. Like that one product alone is such a lifesaver. I've been experimenting, trying to find an organic, sort of platelet-free product. I finally settled on Well People, and it smells like peaches. And it goes on really smooth. You have to put a moisturizer on before you put the tinted moisturizer on. You can get it at Target.
Oh,
it is a great product, and I'm wearing it right now.
That's really good to know. I mean, it brings up an interesting point, because we get asked all the time, what kind of makeup do you guys use? Do you use, I only want to use organic, clean, clean makeup. I think clean, like sort of skincare products are, there's a lot more of. And I always look, until there is, until clean makeup, clean cosmetics actually accommodates for different skin tones, that we cannot use, because the problem is the pigmentation.
Right.
So if you're any darker than my skin, those beauty counter products, I don't know if you guys use those beauty counter brands, all those beautiful brands, all those, wonderfully packaged, clean cosmetics, they don't make shades darker than mine. And
wow.
I just, talk about equity, right? Like, I just can't use those or ask my makeup artist to use those if we're not going to be able to accommodate somebody who walks in and says, and we get this all the time, people call me and say, I'm so sorry. Linda, I saw you did this as well in the beginning. You say, I'm so sorry, I'm old, or I'm so sorry, I'm Indian, or I'm so sorry, I'm dark skinned, or I'm Asian. I get people apologize for who they are all the time.
Because we're made to feel that way. I wanted to say I'm 68 years old, and I'm tired of hiding my age, and I'd like to be able to age. I would like to be able to age. I'd like to be able to stay in style. I'd like to be able to be happy on the outside. I'm happy inside. I spent my whole life, we create our inside, but we like it to match, right?
Right.
So you get to this age and it's J. Jill or whatever, and makeup, forget it. But I love so much of what you both are talking about, and I'm so happy to meet all of you. I'd like to know more about what you all do. And the conversation, I had no idea. I was intimidated because it was fashion and style and makeup, and that's not my life. So I didn't know how I would be judged at this call, but there's no judgment, and I appreciate it. But I think as you're approaching your work from it being real, I think if you're truthful and real about what you do, and you both, then it's inclusive. But the problem is the world outside is not so inclusive. It's so hard to find clothes and makeup. I would love to know how to, you go and spend $125 on a vial, and it doesn't match your skin tone. I have, so being able to have little, little tutorials on how do you mix and match, and how is it affordable, to talking about something that we can really incorporate in our life, not just once a year where you get a makeup and you buy all the products and that's it, but how can it become this daily part of your life? So what you're doing really provides a service for people, and not just kind of an exterior facelift. So that's the difference. So you can weave it. So I'm shocked and awed and delighted.
I'm so glad you're here, Linda. And that's such amazing feedback to get. I really, really appreciate that. Because that's one of the things I love about Kristina, and that's one of the things that's so important to me in my own work, is keeping it real and being authentic, and realizing, especially now, that women have so much going on, and we have so much to give to the world. And, you know, if making outfits or making your look with makeup isn't something that brings you joy, that is okay. You can still look and feel great.
I think, you know, one interesting phenomenon that I found for myself, and I'm sure other women are in the same position, which is this whole world of video calls. I used to really, you know, before the coronavirus, when people wanted to do a Zoom call, like, oh, what, like, why do I have to see your face to do can we just and then it's opened up a whole new world to me, because
Yeah.
there's this strange kind of intimacy to do a video
Yeah.
call from the comforts of your home. And that's the same with makeup lessons, because I think that I would have felt really intimidated and awkward to go into a shop and have somebody, like, I don't know, work with my face. And I would have felt so self-conscious, you know, like I'd be thinking, do I have bad breath, or is she gonna touch, you know, like this part of my face? But, you know, when you do it in the comforts of your home, it's a whole different level. But not only that, like I don't own a TV. Like I'm technologically a dinosaur. Like my husband and I live under a rock. But, you know, both of us have gotten really, you know, relatively tech savvy, because we have to like dial into various types of video calls. And I think that's true for a lot of other people as well.
Yeah.
So those women who would have normally said, oh, you know what, I've got my lady at Estee Lauder, or I've got my lady at Macy's who's going to help me with products, are not going to feel more. And same thing with styling, right, Allison? Like who
Yes.
would have said, oh, you know what, I usually go to my Nordstrom, you know, person, whatever. But I think that it's opened up a whole new world of doing things through video and online, where I personally now feel comfortable having these kind of conversations, but also offering advice on makeup. And, you know, I'm sure it's the same for you, Allison. So
I am so glad to hear you say that, Kristina, because I've been online for years, and I really find that it's so much more powerful to work with my clients in their homes, because there is that level of comfort, and then you can sort of reveal yourself once you create that safe space, you know. But I do believe that COVID has sort of forced the issue of getting everybody online and feeling comfortable, you know, on Zoom. And I'm hoping that you're right, that, you know, because right now it's feeling like clothes have been canceled, even though obviously, you know, I don't think so. But this has been so amazing. I want to be really respectful of everyone's schedule. I had sort of budgeted for 45 minutes for us. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to stay on. But if you need to jump off, you know, that's also okay. I want to give you the space and time to do that. Thank you so much, Kristina, for being here with us.
Meet you and see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
I could.
But I know you have all these balls you're juggling, so I want to be respectful of your time too. So if anyone needs to jump off, please feel free to go. If you want to stay online, Kristina, do you have like 5 more minutes to answer any other questions?
Yeah, the kids
Okay.
are on the house, but it's totally fine.
We'll take it. We'll take it. All right. Anyone have any other questions for Kristina, for me?
I have a question for Linda. Linda, are you doing like virtual piano lessons? Because you said you were a piano teacher earlier.
Yeah, I am. We had to pivot virtually, but now I'm just struggling with what to do next, whether I'm going to go back in the homes. What are we going to do? We've been waiting to find out. Teaching online in this format is not the best, you know, is not the best. And spending 4 or 5 hours every day on Zoom calls is really deadening for me. So I'm trying to come up with a hybrid situation. I moved out of my brick and mortar studio last November, which turned out to be a good thing for me. But now I'm on the road or virtual. So it's really, I have to say, it's really difficult right now to know what to do. So I'm just waiting and gathering as much information. But I was lucky my husband's a musician. The whole arts industry and the music industry, we're all dead in the water. We just got stopped on March 13th, cut off at the knee. So no performances. All of the other artists that I work with are doing any kind of events. It's just too risky. So we've just had to pause and wait. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing. So the best thing to do, the silver lining is, I looked at myself and went, holy moly, you better whip your ass together and get going and at least look good on this thing. So I called Allison is in her handshake group, and all of these people would be great at her handshake, right? And
Yes.
I'd love to know before we go what everybody else does. So I'm going to check out your website and some of your tutorials. And I wanted to know, is this something that meets all the time? And when are we going to discuss how we can buy clothes in a store again?
So Linda, those are some great questions. I was kind of doing this on the regular at the beginning of COVID. I was having virtual coffees with women in my network who I thought would be helpful and nourishing, to the women in my community. And Kristina was on my list. And so but then I had to kind of stop because I had to transition my kids out of, school and into summer and try and figure out something for them. I will say, Linda, I am hugely grateful to my son's guitar teacher for doing the lessons on Zoom. And it's so wonderful for him to have that to go to and to keep him motivated. So I can imagine how deadening it is for you to be on Zoom all day, but I just do want you to know from the parental perspective, like, I'm so grateful for him to have input, that isn't depending on me.
Good.
So thank you
The
for what
parents
you're
run out
doing.
I have 6-year-olds who come and hook up, and the parent is gone. They get a little break, so I appreciate that. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it just occurred to me as you were talking. Maybe you've already thought of this, but I know photographers that I'm friends with, and business friends with, are doing sort of portraits. And I was wondering if there's a space for you to do some kind of porch lesson, for people who have an outdoor space that's covered, where you could, bring a keyboard so you can both be in masks and the parents can feel safe, but the kids can be outdoors. And it feels like, a little bit safer than doing it in the home. I don't know if that's something you've already thought about.
We have, and it's complicated. So
of course,
we're just trying to get our checklist, which is a protocol being 6 feet apart and masks. I can't touch them. I can't work with them. I go by and drive by all my students' homes, and we look, we see each other from afar. And it really is, because as teachers, I don't know if anybody else, but we all miss our students. You miss your clients. I mean, we really miss being together. And I love Zoom is wonderful, but I also, when you just even stand in front of somebody for 5 minutes and they're real,
there is a difference in energy. Absolutely.
So we'll see. Well, we'll do the right thing for everybody, and we can also keep this up for a while. We know that hopefully there'll be an end of this total Zoom world for education in the future, or this hybrid. So we have to be patient and hopeful, which some days is hard.
It is.
So,
do you have any thoughts, Kristina, for Linda?
No, you know what? My daughter does Zoom piano lessons. And again, like you, Allison, I'm so grateful that she has that. She was doing chorus as well, which I don't know why, but it didn't work as well as the piano. I'm trying to see if my daughter wants to kind of get into composing her own music, because I sometimes hear when she thinks that I'm not listening, sitting at the piano and singing to her own music. So I mean, I'm thankful that she has the opportunity to keep her piano, at least, so that it kind of gets that part of her kind of routine.
And her brain.
I agree. I'm really grateful for at least that we can. I know it can't be ideal, but.
Well, we have to accept that. I mean, the teachers want an ideal. You have to you can. But there's a new normal. There's a new way, and as long as the teacher stays really engaged and really tries to reach that student, and you have that connection, it's really keeping the connection. And the children are it's easier for them than us. I mean, they're much more adaptable. So for us to connect, it's we have to jump through this thing and, find each other. And so it takes time. So, and once you've established that trust, whether it's in person or through Zoom, it's, you've got that, you can lock into that and depend on it. So.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey, Jen, what are
that's
you up
beautiful.
to?
I love that. Yeah, I want to hear from Jen. Do you
Yeah,
have any
me?
questions for
I feel like
Kristina?
I want to hear some gems from you. What are you up to? Because you
Oh,
always, Jen
what
has
am I
like
up to?
I always walk away with like a million ideas whenever I see Jen.
Oh gosh, thank you. That's a nice compliment. I am kind of like, I feel like I'm finally kind of getting, I was total survival mode, right? For like
Mhm.
months. It was just like, how is this actually, now it's like, you're at this point where we need to accept that this is, it just is. But like, I'm on a crew, which is Commercial Real Estate Women's Professional Development Committee. And like, some people cried on the last call. They're like, the fall gives me anxiety of just like thinking about school and juggling work. And so, I mean, I think that there's this space of women that Kristina, and like, I don't know you that well, Allison, but I'd like to get to know you better, but is women who do care about the way that they look, but they want it to be easy because they have jobs and they are moms. And there's like a whole nother space where a lot of
Yeah.
beauty industries don't cater to, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But in any case, I have been like very busy at my day job, thankfully. Luckily, I'm a civil engineer and we have some really big projects. And then like I like sell hair stuff and skincare. And so you're trying to, where we did a lot of in-person events, and I like do a lot of business development. And so like that's how I really connect with people. And it wasn't as much online, like I do share stuff, but it's like trying to pivot and figure out what's the best way to engage with people and share your products in a way that is helpful. Because at the end of the day, it is like making your life easier and things like that. Like I haven't washed my hair since Monday. So this is really long time.
What?
Your hair looks amazing as
But
always.
it's dry
What?
shampoo. But I mean, it's just like things, but then how you like share them so that they resonate with other people. But yeah, so I mean, it's just, that's been fun. And I also do photography on the side. And that I had some actually really fun work with some nonprofits planned in March and April, and it was like some marketing and branding shoots. So I'm like really bummed because that was like, they just stopped, you know? So it's,
Yeah.
that has like been kind of on the back burner, but that it was like, I was really wanting to focus more on branding and things like that. So it was kind of interesting just hearing what you're saying about where there's a void even in stock photography or, you know, stuff like that too. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just like really trying to keep your mindset like around where we're at.
Yeah.
And I love hearing like how people have pivoted, because it's been very impressive to watch like women that I know in the DC area, solopreneurs and things like that, just like really figure it out, because you're really resilient and, you know, like just stick with it. But so this was really great conversation. So I
I'm
loved it.
so glad, Jen. Thank you for saying so. I really appreciate that. And kudos to you for having so many things in the air as well. Like, I'm really kind of blown away.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the like having your kids at home. It goes back to equity, right? If you haven't read the book Fair Play, it's like it's about like
Okay.
domestic equity, like within your like household, and where it's like where if we really want to see a change of like women, like specifically women, it's like a male women like or whatever spousal divide. Like there's
Right.
one, men's time is valued, like a man's time in a boardroom is valued much higher than a woman's like time taking their kid to the doctor. It's the same
Yep,
hour of time.
100%.
All that time is technically equal to make our world run the way it is. And I'm hopeful that all of this is like shining light on the fact that women just do an insane amount of stuff.
Yes. And that we as a society don't value caretaking at all.
No.
At all, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Natalia. She just has to jump off, so she's giving us
Thanks,
best wishes.
everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to run as well. I have 11:30, but this was really fun, and it was nice to meet some of you. And I will
so
keep an eye out if you do it again, Allison. Thank you.
Okay, I'm hoping to do some in the fall, so we'll see.
Great.
All right, thanks, ladies.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank you, Allison. Thanks,
Thank
Kristina.
you.
So good to see you, Ladon.
You too. Have a good weekend.
Linda, you're saying something, but I can't hear you.
Oh, is it Landon?
LaDon.
LaDon. I wanted to find out what she did. I didn't understand.
She does events. So obviously pre-COVID, she was doing mostly celebrations of life.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, great.
Yeah, and so she's pivoted to doing online. She's been doing some birthday celebrations.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, it's, you know, it's tough for people who are in the event business. Just like for you.
The musicians, I can't send them out. You know, it's just very, very hard. But we'll get, you know, this has made me feel very hopeful today.
Good.
And, you know, kicking my step, and I can't wait to learn to get the right makeup. And I'll be utilizing all your service. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Linda, for showing up.
It pivoted my day
Yay!
completely. So thanks so much. Right,
that's
bye-bye.
awesome. That's so great. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.